Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown. That will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. 1 Corinthians 9:25.
Welcome to xGameZones, hub to latest popular games, reviews, preview and news. While I did enjoy my time with this game, I don't think I will be revisiting it in its current state. If you have a hankering for an old-school turn-based strategy game, then you'll probably enjoy this. For everyone else though, I think you may be a tad overwhelmed. Science fiction and dystopian futures go together hand in hand like bread and butter. Examples are everywhere you look: Dune, Blade Runner, Fallout, Judge Dredd. There is no escaping the march of technology, and often, as a result, the rise of the corporations that slowly but surely come to eclipse governments. Conglomerate 451 continues that tradition and drops you into the shoes of one such corporate director. The difference here though? You're contracted to fight for the government and try to bring back order to a city on the verge of anarchy. How well does it succeed? Please subscribe in our YouTube channel and follow and like us on Facebook #xGameZones. Visit our site at www.xgamezones.com for more gaming review. First things first, if you are expected to go up against rival companies with superior manpower and resources, how exactly do we even the odds? Well, cloning, that's how. All of the agents that you send out into the field are clones of an original agent. In the beginning, they are perfect copies, but later on, you can start manipulating the DNA to produce enhanced clones with greater stats and special bonuses. Creating and customizing your clones is a big part of the game, and balancing out your team for field duty. Having a healer is always great, but there's also hacking to consider, team buffs, enemy debuffs, and of course straight up damage dealers. That's before we even get into the fact that as this is a cyberpunk world, there is, of course, the option, via research, to infuse cybernetic augmentations to your clones. If this all sounds a bit overwhelming, it kind of is. The game is split into two different segments: the turn-based dungeon crawling segments, missions, where you control your squad in the field, and the office simulator section where you can create new clones, build upgrades and control research. During missions, you also have the option to find traders out in the world that can sell you drugs. These each have pros and cons and run the risk of your agents developing issues with prolonged use. During combat, your agents have a variety of options, but one of the most useful is hacking. While you won't be taking control of enemy units, the main reason to utilize this in battle is to learn about your opponents. They all have strengths and weaknesses which without hacking into them you will not know. Some encounters can be made a lot easier if you know you can stun, electrocute, burn or tank some damage due to you already knowing the enemy's traits from previous hacks. Combat, for the most part, is engaging and enjoyable if you like this style of game. My only real annoyance was with the camera. Once the encounter starts, enemies can reposition themselves but you can't move. This leads to several moments where enemies position themselves right on the edge of your vision, and no matter how you try and position your camera, they are in an awkward place. Speaking of movement, this game is like taking a trip back in time. The entire map is grid-based and you move between the spaces on the grid and control which direction you face separately. If you played a lot of PC games in the 90s, you might feel right at home, but I am not sure that modern audiences will find this system pleasing. Every mission has a different objective and there are plenty of items that can be looted. Minigames are used to open containers. I found these to be a welcome distraction from the turn-based fights. Some of these items help with the research back at your headquarters or simply offer the resources needed to afford them. When your agents take damage, you can heal them between missions in the medbay, but sometimes the trauma will stay with them, giving them negative traits you need to be aware of going forward. If your agents don't make it back, then I'm afraid you've lost them for good. Permadeath exists in this game, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can clone a new one and maybe even make them stronger with new perks you may have unlocked since the original's birth. The game offers 2 modes to choose from: Story or Endless mode. Endless mode is the same as Story mode but without an endgame. The story itself, though, I found wasn't as strong as I hoped. While the opening to the game was great, I quickly lost interest and found myself lost a lot of the time to the story. You often get contacted by the government directly to perform secret missions, and while it's cool to converse in your office privately with a little holographic buddy, I'd have preferred a stronger narrative. I do appreciate though that RuneHeads, the developers, have still made a great overall package. I hope that this isn't the last we see of this world. While it has its rough edges, this is still an enjoyable experience with a lot of options to create your very own corporate death squads. If you have any comments or suggestion, feel free to comment below. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe in our YouTube channel and follow and like us on Facebook #xGameZones. For more gaming review, visit our site at www.xgamezones.com. Don't forget to click the notification bell.
How does coronavirus spread? Coronavirus most commonly spreads from an infected person to others through 1. The air, by coughing or sneezing. 2. Touching a contaminated surface or object manned. Then touching your mouth, nose or eyes. 3. Close personal contact, such as touching or shaking hands. 4. Rarely, fecal contamination. What are signs and symptoms of coronavirus? 1. Fever. 2. Sore throat. 3. Difficulty breathing. 4. Dry cough. How can I protect myself? 1. Wash your hands thoroughly and often with soap and water, at least 20 seconds. 2. Avoid touching your eyes, nose or mouth with unwashed hands. 3. Avoid close contact with people who are sick.